One more time. Okay, it's Shushan Purim and Erev Parshat Tzav. So just a short statement about Parshat Tzav, because I want to talk a little bit more about Purim with you. Parshat Tzav, which comes between Vayikra and Shmini, repeats some of the information about offerings that are brought in the Mizbeach, in the Mishkan, and later will be brought in the temple in Yerushalayim, but from a different perspective. Initially, we learned about who was bringing them, what sin they had committed, what issues they had. And by the way, if you hear things in the background, right, they're having a big party down on the main street here in honor of Shushan Purim. So what it was about was that it was in the discussion of the offerings was about who brought them and why they brought them. In this week's Parshat Tzav, is really preparation for the Kohanim, Aaron and his sons, for their part of bringing the sacrifices that are brought by the people, right? So it's a different perspective on the same thing. And the Parsha ends with Aaron being told, okay, you and your sons, you're now going to spend the next week in the Mishkan, Moshe Rabbeinu, and you're going to learn all the details of the process of what your duty is as a Kohen, as a priest. Next week, we get to Parsha Shmini, which is about kosher and non-kosher animals, and so it goes. We're learning details here, but they're very important details. I wish I had time to do both subjects, but I don't. And since Purim comes once a year, I'm going to discuss another element of Purim. Our sages tell us that when we received at Mount Sinai the Torah, it was done under duress. Why so? Well, you see, the Midrash says that God held the mountain over the heads of the Jewish people and said, if you accept my Torah, good. And if not, I'm dropping the mountain and you'll be buried right here. It'll be over. This is, we understand, kind of a metaphor, because when God is openly revealed, we lose our free will, in the sense that it's so overpowering that obedience is not a question. It is natural and you're inclined to do it. So consequently, we didn't really make a decision to accept or not. And the Jews held that this was done, you know, with a gun at our head. And consequently, there's a question whether we had to obey those laws. The details of this are for another time. They go on to say, the same sages go on to say, but at Purim, we accepted it willingly, the Torah, right? Because we were so appreciative of the miracle of being saved. Well, was it a miracle? It doesn't look like a miracle when you actually read the Megillah. It looks like a series of coincidences. And that is very important. Now let's look at these two different events. Mount Sinai, 3 days of preparation, mikveh, everything you had to do, right, for it. And then, right, the most dramatic, I like to say the most dramatic book launch in history. You know, top of the mountain, God comes down in smoke, fire, rain, lightning, you can see words, you can hear lightning. It's everything is like a different universe and tremendously dramatic. How about Purim? Oh, and by the way, it all happens in one day. How about Purim? 13 years? No miracles take 13 years, right? And God's involvement, he's not mentioned in the Megillah. The Megillah is literally a letter from Esther and Mordecai to the Jewish people. But more than a letter, it's kind of like an op-ed. It's the news of the day. In case you didn't know what happened last year, let me give you some information, right? Or it could be seen as a tell-all novel, you know, by the Empress and the Prime Minister, about the former Prime Minister and the Emperor. But it certainly didn't have the qualities of the giving of the Torah Mount Sinai. What is it about? What do we learn? Well, I want to use a metaphor that I think we're familiar with. Those of you who are parents. I'm now a grandparent as well. That's the party going on outside. When my son was very young, 8 days old to maybe 12, right? Anything he needed was taken care of by his parents. You know, his father and his mother were there always with anything he needed, right? And to tell him how to act and what to do. And he was a wonderful young man, child, right? Guided through the whole process. Then comes Bar Mitzvah. Bar Mitzvah is the beginning of becoming not a boy, but a young man. And he will progress through adolescence, it's called, through his teen years. And what happens during those teen years? Well, let's look back to the childhood. When it was time to play Little League Baseball, I was there. When he went horseback riding, I was there. When he wanted to learn karate, I was there. His mother was there with his homework. His mother was there preparing things for him. His mother was there telling him what was going. And Torah was around him all the time from both his parents. Now what happens? Bar Mitzvah. 13. Suddenly, his parents become increasingly an embarrassment for him. He knows more about, you know, the Toronto Blue Jays than I do. He's into the Raptors, cell phones, websites, this, that. And truth be told, when we're all together with other people, especially with his friends, his mama and papa are a bit of an embarrassment. So much so that I actually once admitted to him that there is a special university that parents go to learn how to embarrass their children. He believed us and said that he thought we probably got very good grades. As he gets older, right, he moves on. He finishes high school, he goes to a bit of yeshiva, goes to university, right? And now he has a need to be on his own. And yet he's being watched. But he doesn't really want us on his back. I like to say we're supposed to get off his back, but to watch his back. At this point, the only way that he can grow and mature is by making some mistakes and learning from them, and by developing his own independence. And you cannot become independent with doting parents. It doesn't work. Now there's a final stage. I'm jumping ahead. And that final stage is when the boy becomes a papa, and the papa becomes a Zaidi, a grandfather. And it's no longer an embarrassment, and it's no longer a hidden hand that is there when it's needed but is not obvious. Right? Now it's back into the picture. It's the wisdom of the Zaidi. Great for the grandchildren. Papa likes it, Mama likes it, you know, Babushka's there. It's great at that point. The relationships are back as good or better than they ever were. Why am I telling you this story? I didn't forget. Because Matan Torah, the Exodus, the Yamsuf, the sea splitting, the plagues, the giving of the Torah at Sinai, the daily miracles that we saw every day in the Midbar. We were fed in the Midbar. We were given in the wilderness. We were given water in the wilderness. Our clothes didn't wear out, right? This was the doting parents. This was, our child is here, our child is born, our child is the nation of Israel. Right? And we, it's really I in this case because it's Hashem, right? And I'm watching every move. And if there's somebody who wants to hurt them, I'm there to take care of it. And if they need something, I'm there to take care of it. And if they don't understand what's going on, I'm there to explain it. And if they need a roadmap on how to move, I'm there. Right? Everything is taken care of. But through the whole process, this child, Klal Yisrael, is maturing. They enter the land. They build a temple. They have a nation. They have some great kings and some not so great kings. And as they're doing it, they're doing more and more on their own. And they're devoted people. They're not avoiding God. But they're doing their part. And God seems to drift into the background. And mistakes are made. But mistakes are allowed. One needs to learn from mistakes. And tragically, the temple is destroyed, and the Jews are exiled to Babylon. Babylon is conquered by the Medes and then by the Persians, and now we have our Purim story. Jews are on their own, in exile, in a foreign place. Right? We tell the story, and the story seems to be without God. You cannot find God's name in the Megillah. It's not there. And by the way, Esther's name, Hester, really, is where we see it in the Torah, hidden, right? But Megillah is revealed. So in the Megillah, the hiddenness is revealed. And what do we learn? We learn that God has given us the reins that we need as young men and young women, as adolescents growing up, to learn and to do ourselves. But He's there when we need Him. His hand is there. There was no coincidence. Nothing was a coincidence in the whole story. The Vashti story, Esther being taken to the palace, Haman being promoted, the reading at night, you know, the Mordecai saving, all of it was scripted ahead of time. All of it was scripted ahead of time. It was the hand of God, Yad Hashem, right? But in a far more subtle way than at Mount Sinai. And this is what we needed at that time, was a certain amount of subtlety. And when we came to understand it, when the light bulb went on, and the child realizes how much the parents have done for him through the process, we hugged our parents, we loved them, and we thanked them, and we committed ourselves to their ideals. And that's Purim, and that's why it happened that way. Now, just a little touch to take this metaphor further. What's the next stage? The Zaidi and Babushka stage. Right? I'll tell you the next stage. Saba and Savta. The next stage is now. Hashem looks down, and this is a little bit controversial, I admit, but not for me. Looks down and sees that his children have returned to his land, Medina, Eretz Yisrael. And they have created a state, Medina Yisrael. Is it a perfect state? It's an imperfect state. It's a work in progress. But it is an absolutely 100% revealed miracle. The rest of the world sees it. Sometimes we don't. The rest of the world sees this is a miracle. The wars that are won, the industry that's created, startup nation. Where do you want to start? It just goes on and on and on. This is a state the size of New Jersey, right? And what does it give to the world? What does it create for the world? How does it change the world? This is a miraculous state. And what we're seeing now is the patriarch, the Zaidi stage, right? So enjoy it. Enjoy the love of God wherever you are for His people. Right? Be part of it. We have a second Purim every year, and it's for walled cities that were walled at the time of Joshua. The major one, of course, is Jerusalem, right? And even here, where we are in the Galilee, right, they're partying. So, what can I say? Hag Sameach again, Hag Purim Sameach, one more time, Hag Shushan Purim, right? And also Shabbat Shalom. David Ostriker here in Karmiel, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom.